Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. We're watching a clip of First Things First, talking about whether or not Aiyuk will be a good fit for the Steelers. Let's just jump right into it.
Brew, we'll start with you. How much would Aiyuk help Russ?
First of all, they do look very similar.
Also,
look at their faces.
Second of all, this is Aiyuk's first tweet in 11 months. So that's why it's a little noteworthy. But go ahead.
I went to Mike Tomlin's Twitter to see what his replies were. He does tweet nice things, but I don't think he's doing negotiating. X.
I mean, you guys know I've been saying it since they got Russ. I already like their skilled players. George Pickens,
Yep.
I get he's probably underachieved a little bit, but incredible talent.
Yep.
Freiermuth, nice tight end, 2 good running backs. Great defense. You add Aiyuk, and it's like Aaron Rodgers. It's like, and I'm saying they're going to be injured like the Jets might be, but it's like, it's on you, man. You got enough help. If you can't get it done, and it done is make the playoffs, maybe make a little bit of a run. If you can't get it done with these guys, then you're washed. And so Aiyuk would be phenomenal for them.
Listen, Aiyuk would really be helpful for their eventual starter, Justin Fields. Russ, Aiyuk does all his work over the middle of the field. Russ doesn't throw in the middle of the field because he's small and can't see the middle of the field. And even when he was great, he didn't throw over the middle of the field. And so I think this obviously would help Pittsburgh a ton. But you know what else this signals? This is the beginning of some tough decisions in San Francisco. They don't.
I should have known.
Well, it's just the facts.
Okay, so before he jumps into that, I want to say, with Aiyuk, here's my concern with Aiyuk, because he's apparently requested, trade, before. That was what it was reported as. And the thing is about Aiyuk is, he's with the 49ers, right, who went to back-to-back NFC Championship games, and then, of course, the Super Bowl. He has Shannon, one of the best offensive minds in the NFL, has all these weapons, has a great offense, and Brock Purdy, whether you think he's the most amazing quarterback or not, he's obviously a capable quarterback of getting the job done. It's like, what else does Aiyuk want? Now, is it because there's too many mouths to feed, so he wants to be featured more, number one, or two, does he want more money? Now, either of those situations is a bad look for Aiyuk for a winning, to try to bring him on to a winning organization, a winning culture. I don't necessarily blame Aiyuk for obviously wanting more money or even wanting more, to be featured more. But at the same time, those types of players get disgruntled very easily. And that's my biggest concern. If it was just the money, then I could actually understand a little bit more. But if it's wanting to be featured more, then I would have my concerns, because you're now going to put that pressure on Russ or Justin Fields, who are both 2 quarterbacks that are not in command of their craft right now. These are not balling out, NFL quarterbacks right now. So if you get, I don't want to call Aiyuk a diva, because I'm not saying that's necessarily what he is, but if he does want to leave 49ers because he wants the ball more, that's diva-esque. That's a tricky situation, because again, you're putting that pressure now on 2 quarterbacks that do not have command of the football right now. Not to mention, it'll be he'll get more disgruntled if he's not touching the ball more. If it's just a money thing, I'm on the fence about that, how much that also concerns me, because it just means that you want money and you're less about winning. Again, individually, from a person to person and a guy who's also just trying to make it in the world, I get it. Get your money. Get all the money you can. I truly do get it, right? You only have so much time, so get all the money you can. But again, I would like to know what the options are. It's one thing if the 49ers, want to lowball him or something, or, what the full story is. It just feels as though, if you're not putting winning at the very top and you're leaving such an unbelievable franchise. Again, it's one thing if he was leaving, say, the Cincinnati Bengals, right? Like T. Higgins, I can understand, because he's kind of like, well, listen, man, we're not winning anyway. We're not doing much anyway necessarily. So, I want to be featured more and I want more money. Come on. I can see that. I genuinely can see that. But with Aiyuk, your team is having an insane amount of success, and you're attached to one of the best offensive coaches. You want to go to the Steelers potentially, and you're going to be with Russ, who's, hanging on one leg, or, Justin Fields, who God knows really what he ends up being, and Mike Tomlin, a defensive head coach. It's just, I become weary of Aiyuk, honestly, under those circumstances. Not to mention, I just think that, that can put Russ or Fields in a difficult situation depending on what Aiyuk's, mentality is. But with all that said, him as just a player, and let's take away any of the other stuff that I just said, Aiyuk would be great for the Steelers. Aiyuk will be great on any team for that matter. So if we're just talking about pure X's and O's, then I think he'll be successful. And I think what Nick Wright just said was pretty, silly about, not throwing in the middle of the field. I understand if that's, Russell Wilson's, previous thing, but that he's too small and he can't see in the middle of the field. I think that's a little, overblown, even if it's not his, main comfortability, but he can still do it. And if Aiyuk's catching the ball, then better believe then he's gonna, make those throws. So, but yeah, let's see what else Nick has to say.
I should have known.
Does everyone at this table think Brandon Aiyuk's really, really good?
He's excellent.
Yeah, he's their first round pick. So why is this a discussion? So we know why T. Higgins is being franchised. Because the Bengals paid Joe Burrow all that money, and because the Bengals is going to pay Jamar Chase all that money. We know why Snead is franchised. Because the Chiefs paid Mahomes all that money, and the Chiefs paid Chris Jones all that money. But the Niners quarterback doesn't make any money. Mm-hmm. So why would they not be paying Aiyuk? Because they have the highest paid running back, tight end, fullback, left tackle, defensive end, and in addition to that, they gave Debo $25 million a year, Hargrave 4 years for $80. Oh, and the highest paid middle linebacker, at least when he signed his deal in Fred Warner. And Brew would tell you that they desperately need help on the offensive line because Pro Football Focus didn't like it. And I would tell you that they do need money for Hufanga, who is, I think, maybe the best safety in the league, who blew his ACL last year. So this is now, all of a sudden, the Niners are entering their... Gonna have to, cut Eric Armstead, which they did. Gonna have to make maybe a business decision on Brandon Aiyuk. And despite the fact that their quarterback makes $900,000. And if they were to trade Aiyuk, I'm very curious how that impacts Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
I know you guys,
I'll give you, we might know. I mean, we have a little bit of evidence.
Yeah, so you don't think...
Brandon Aiyuk missed one game last year. How did they do?
I'm sure Brock
They won 30-12 against the Giants, who were,
the Giants.
Who were what? What do I know? Tell me
They got Dable, who's a good coach.
Coach of the year.
Brock Purdy without Brandon Aiyuk, y'all. I know Nick thinks he was horrible.
No, I don't.
4 interceptions or something. No,
I don't.
25 for 37. 310 yards, 2 touchdowns, passer rating 111.3.
So you don't think?
And I think, and
so
Jawan, now I'm not trying to make Jawan Jennings out to be some superstar. Obviously,
He
played
is good,
well in the
though.
Super Bowl. Right. I think they think he can step up, and it is a deep receiver draft, and we'll go get one of these receivers that's not making a lot of money.
Of course.
And we still got Debo and Kittle that you have to worry about,
don't-
not to mention McCaffrey.
I don't.
So
Right.
it'll be all
I don't think it would be a bad move. The point I am making is the Niners. They have had a ridiculously loaded team over the last few years. And they have come as close as any team can come to getting over the hump without getting there. I think that as far as just raw talent on the roster, last year and the year before are going to be far more talent on the roster than they have this coming year or the year after. And that wasn't enough then. And then there will, of course, be the question of, well, if Brock Purdy's the guy Bruce says he is, he very soon is going to go from $1 million a year to $50 million a year. And so
they got him one more year.
They've got him this year and then technically 2 more years, but he would get his extension after this coming year. So I think it is very noteworthy that this is on the board. That the Niners have not locked up Brandon Aiyuk, and they haven't done it because they have too many expensive players. Yeah. I mean, that's flatly the reason they've...
Yeah, and again, though, it is interesting because Aiyuk, I know, and I don't know if the narrative has changed at all, but, it was originally reported that he wanted out. And I don't know now if it's being kind of, sold as, well, they can only afford to keep so many people or, salary cap, like what it is. But to my knowledge, it was, it came out that, he wanted, to leave. And maybe it was because maybe he saw that he wasn't going to be able to get the money. I know, I don't really know, but it is, this is a difficult situation. And again, I'm not saying that Aiyuk should be taking some sort of pay cut, or some hometown discount here. I'm definitely not calling for that. And, the 49ers, when you do have all these players and you have to pay them all this money, it's just like, it is difficult. It's like, what do you do? That's kind of what's happening with the Cowboys. They have all these expensive players. The difference is that the 49ers have had success, and it is unfortunate that they weren't able to pull off, a Super Bowl win or two, because now the team theoretically can only kind of get worse, from a roster, standpoint, because you have all these great players and you could only afford to keep so many of them, unless you're real fortunate and you can essentially draft the next Aiyuk, and now you don't have to pay him, practically anything. And this has always been the argument against Brock Purdy, is that Brock Purdy is a good quarterback, but he's on a great team. Now, we know the truly great elite quarterbacks, like the Patrick Mahomes, like the Tom Brady's, the Peyton Mannings of the world, can lose an Aiyuk and still be successful, and still, they don't need a stacked roster, in order to win. And that has always been the gigantic question mark around Brock Purdy, is, can he win without a stacked roster? I think Brock Purdy showed a lot of great things this past season and, in the playoffs as well. But, I don't know if he showed us that transcendent level of talent just yet. It's not to say that he can't get there, and a lot of people will say, well, hey, he's only had, this was his first full season starting. That's fine. But, eventually you have to show it, like, what is Brock Purdy's true ceiling? Because if it's in the realm of, say, a Dak Prescott or something, that's not good enough. It's been proven to not be good enough. So, which is okay. Not everyone can be Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes here, right? That's understandable. So the problem is that if you're a 49ers fan, you're just looking at this and thinking, have we already lost our window? Did our window close? Because yes, even though you still may be able to be good without Aiyuk, it's hard to imagine that you'll somehow be able to be better without Aiyuk. You could still be a good team, can still be a competitive team, but to be better without him, again, unless you are able to really draft a wide receiver who can really kind of ball out today, because that's the thing. You need players that are ready today. You have some of your stars that are aging out, Christian McCaffrey, Kittle, these guys only have so much left in the tank, and are pretty much, teetering on, whether or not their prime is over, or, also just the fact that, the injury risk just goes higher and higher the older you get. So, the chances of, say, a Kittle and a Christian McCaffrey playing a full season is just, the chances of that happening just continue to go down and down and down. And we know Debo is, kind of always getting banged up here and there. So, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what the 49ers do. I think if they could find a way to obviously keep him, that would obviously be ideal. But apparently it doesn't seem like that's necessarily going to happen. And like I said before, to my knowledge, it was reported that Aiyuk wanted out. Like, it was pretty much as soon as the Super Bowl was over. It was like that week, apparently, it came out. Like, he was like, yeah, I want out, which I definitely at the time raised some flags on both sides, because it was kind of like, well, is there something going on within the 49ers organization, the locker room? Does he not like Brock Purdy? Like, what's the actual situation here? Or is it just money and he just knows, okay, I'm not going to be able to get paid here. Get me out of here. Send me, to a different organization. Or is he just upset because, Super Bowl didn't get touches as much as he would have wanted. And, obviously losing a Super Bowl is pretty depressing and pretty deflating. And so maybe he was just like, man, I want out of here, so I don't know. But I wouldn't, I think a player like an Aiyuk, needs to find himself in a perfect situation, right? AJ Brown was disgruntled with the Titans, and he was able to go to the Eagles with a great quarterback and at the time a great offensive coordinator in Shane Steichen, and already other good offensive weapons that were already kind of, beginning to flow, that you were able to plug in AJ Brown. He was able to be the immediate number one option. And then the Eagles were able to take that, to the Super Bowl and almost win the Super Bowl. And therefore, AJ Brown was able to be happy. But even AJ Brown was upset in the NFC Championship game because he didn't touch the ball enough. He was angry and upset, because he wanted the ball more, even though they were blowing out the Giants, I think it was at the time. It was just a bad look. And you flip that, or not, right? I don't know if it was the NFC. It might have been the game before the NFC, right? Because the Giants didn't play in the NFC Championship. But and that's what it comes down to. He was able to have instant success, and so he was happy until he wasn't. And then this past season, when things didn't go very well, he was getting angry right off the bat. I just fear that that's a situation that you could potentially have with Aiyuk if you send him to a team, especially like the Steelers, who are not ready, locked and loaded to just ball out offensively. You have two big, gigantic question mark QBs with a defensive head coach and a brand new OC who has a decent track record, don't get me wrong, but, still, to think that, you'll have kind of instant success, I think is wishful thinking. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. Please let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.